Good morning, everyone, and a warm welcome to Rosslyn Hill Chapel, a spiritual home for open minds. I'm Reverend Kate Dean, and I'm proud to serve for this beautiful and sacred place. Whoever you are and wherever you are on life's journey, there is a place for you here in our Unitarian spiritual community. Our Bright Lights Children's Chapel and creche for children aged 2 and above is available during the service today. Babies under 2 are welcome in the creche but need to be accompanied by an adult. And if you're watching at home, please do join the virtual side aisle, which is our Zoom social at midday. The Zoom link was sent in our weekly email update, and you can also find the link in the YouTube description if you're watching live. And I know that the regulars at this Zoom chat really enjoy themselves, and they would love to see some more new faces. And for those of you in the chapel, do join us for tea and conversation after the service in the real side aisle. At 6 p.m. this evening, we have our regular 30 minutes of mindfulness, and then at 7, our evening gathering will be reflections on the inquiring mind. So we'll take elements from this morning's service, and there will be an opportunity for folks to share their reflections on today's theme. I also want to highlight some other events happening in the next couple of weeks. Next Sunday, the 23rd, will be an interactive all-ages service in the morning celebrating Black Britons, and the afternoon workshop will also continue that theme. Cultural historian Holly Maples will come and lead a workshop entitled Black History is Our History, and that takes place 2 until 4 next Sunday, the 23rd. And then on Sunday the 30th, there's our annual membership service and community lunch, which will be held in the hall, so I hope you'll all join us for that. You can find information about all of these and all of our other activities on our website, but if you prefer a paper copy, please do pick up our Open Mind newsletter. Copies are available at the back of the chapel. We have returned to the practice of passing our collection basket, and we'll do that today during the postlude music right at the end of the service. For some, this will be a symbolic act, especially if we intend to make our contribution by card, and the card reader will be available near the piano after the service. This month, we're supporting our own cold weather shelter, and so we'll divide the collection between the upkeep of this beautiful chapel and this very worthy cause. And we're also still looking for some volunteers to help us out on Friday nights and Saturday mornings with the cold weather shelter. So if you are interested, please do contact me or contact the chapel office to find out more. Today's service is offered by our venerable chapel elders, long-standing members of our community. And I'm here introducing it because one of our chapel elders, James Chiriyankandath, is unwell today, so we wish him a speedy recovery. The service is inspired by the Unitarian newspaper, The Inquirer, which is the oldest non-conformist religious newspaper. And here is the latest edition, which you can take a look at, along with various other editions on the table over in the side aisle after the service. This one has an article by me in it, as a little plug. So please do enjoy the service, and I'll hand over to Sally now.
Good morning, everyone. We come together to celebrate who we are, to share the insights that give meaning and hope to our lives, to learn from the wisdom of others, that their truths may contribute to our understanding. We gather, we share, we learn, we celebrate our coming together.
As others before us have sought to make ordinary ties special by lighting a candle, we now seek to transform this ordinary time into a special one and sacred one by lighting the chalice, a symbol of our faith. Oh, we like to get to know one another, so may I suggest that you turn to somebody near you, exchange names, and welcome each other for a few minutes.
I don't do much. Some of it under duress. We're now going to join in singing hymn number 3, Joy of Living, after the introduction.
Please be seated, except for the children. If we have children and young people, Sally has a story for you.
Okay. Now, before we started today, I was talking to someone not too far away from me who said, "Is it a Christmas story?" And it's not. It's not. But it is sort of about, it's really an inquiry, rather like the magazine that we're celebrating and talking about today. And so, here we are. It begins like this. After the Christmas party was over and gone, when it was nearly time to go home, the children were all still talking and laughing. They'd had such a nice time. The jelly was lovely, they said. The sausages were better. What sort of things do you like at parties? Lilibet? Ice cream. And how about you? Mint choc chip. Good one. Do you like something special at a party?
Crisp, maybe? We had lots of crisp yesterday at a party, didn't we?
Yo, how nice. And Sophia, I bet you like ice cream. Yeah. That sounds good. Yeah, some people liked pizza. Some people were trying to work out the tricks that they'd seen because they had a conjurer. And another person was busy making very sure that her balloon didn't get popped because they'd had balloons. They'd all had such a good time, and they were tired, and it was all over. Cheer up, said Reverend Kate. There'll be another one next year, I promise. Well, a year is a long time, don't you think? Yeah, it is. And, you know, the spring had to come after Christmas, and then the summer. No sign of a Christmas party in the middle of summer. And then the autumn came, and the winter began to come, and it began to nip at everybody's fingers and toes. And the children remembered last year's party. And they said to themselves, what can we do to make sure this year is as good as the last one? So what do you think they did? How do you think they'd set about that? What do you think they did? If you wanted to make sure you didn't forget anything, what might you do?
You might write it down.
You are so right, Isaac. Do you agree, Lilibet? Yep, that's right. Okay.
I write it down. I write lots of ideas so that I can keep it for the next time.
I hope you heard that, everybody. Lilibet had said she writes lots of ideas down so she can keep it for the next time after the last one. And Isaac suggested we make a list. So I'm going to make a list on this paper of the things that you think would make a really good party. Can you tell me, what would you like to have at a party? If you were going to have a party? Chocolate. Top of my list too. Lilibet.
A giant cake. Not chocolate.
Giant cake. I'll put not chalk.
I hate chocolate cake.
Anything else? What about entertainments?
Magician. Frankie has a magician at her birthday party.
Magician? Okay, magician.
Clown.
And a clown.
I love clowns.
Ooh, any more ideas? How about you, older?
Streamer cannon.
Oh, what?
A cannon that fires streamers and confetti.
Whoa! a cannon, then I've put streamer after it. Otherwise, we might think we're shooting all the children off out of the, my word, out of the cannon. That'd be fun. Yes. Any other suggestions from the congregation? Balloons. Okay.
And chocolate chip ice cream.
I've already got that down, Lilibet.
Rosslyn Hill Chapel.
Is that where you'd like to have it? Right. RHUC.
It's giant.
Okay. Well, you can see there's quite a lot of things on that list.
I know. Surprise guest.
Oh, a good idea. And who might that be if it
Jacqueline
was at
Wilson,
Christmas?
Jacqueline Wilson.
Oh, right. Author visit. I had somebody else in mind, though.
And give me all of her books.
If it was a Christmas party, who do you think, Isaac?
Santa Claus.
Ooh. Do you think Santa Claus might come? Yes. I think.
And he would give me
okay.
Jacqueline Wilson.
Santa surprise. Okay.
Dear Santa, please may you give me Jacqueline
You know,
Wilson as a
I
present.
think,
All of her books, please. Signed by her. Thank you.
I think,
P.S.
excuse me, I think that this list is really a good beginning. So I'm going to pass it on to Rev Kate, and we will have to think about it because parties cost lots of money, so sometimes choices have to be made. But a list is a good beginning.
List.
We've made an inquiry for the beginning. It's time now to sing you out to Children's Church. And so, all together, everyone. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere.
I invite you now into a time of prayer and meditation. We come together each Sunday with hearts full of joys and full of concerns. If you are holding someone in your heart this morning, I invite you to say their name aloud in the coming moments of stillness, so that we may also hold them in our prayers. Spirit of life and love, God of our hearts, we give thanks for those who bring us joy, and we pray for the safekeeping of all those whom we hold in concern. For all those names, spoken and unspoken, may they be surrounded by the loving kindness that we offer them today. Blessed be, and amen.
The following are some thoughts by Colin Burns, the editor of the Inquirer. It is entitled A Time for Renewal. Throughout its 180 history, the Inquirer has connected Unitarians, closed gaps of miles between like-minded, and created bridges across disparate Unitarian beliefs. Its columns provide a place to rage at injustice, at close-mindedness, at money changers. Or held within its paragraphs, there is comfort and wisdom from ministers, leaders, and congregations. The Inquirer promotes our movement, our values, our way of being in the world. It is faith-made tangible, a touchable, shareable thing that can be pressed into a visitor's hands, passed around a discussion circle, taken and read anywhere. Every fortnight it is a presence, a constant. Another constant, since the Inquirer's establishment at the early in 1842, is that the costs have never been met only by subscriptions. The generosity of individual Unitarians and organizations is the lifeblood of the Inquirer, and for that the Inquirer Board is grateful, because without those contributions the paper simply would not exist. Many denominational newspapers have shrunk, reduced their publishing schedules, or disappeared entirely. The culling of newspapers across every type of journalism shows how vulnerable even the well-established can be. It's been a rough couple of years for everyone, particularly for those grieving loved ones taken too soon by the pandemic. Churches, fellowships, and individual Unitarians have also faced hardship, trying to worship in community, seeking the divine in the midst of stress, fear, and loneliness. The Inquirer Board committed during lockdown to make the paper accessible to all, not just our subscribers. Those who normally collected their magazines at church were sent their copies at home, and we began posting the magazine on our website. The feedback throughout the pandemic has been marvelous. Many readers have written in, saying the Inquirer has helped them stay in touch with their community and with their spiritual selves. That is exactly what we hoped to achieve. But now the Inquirer is up against it. Rising new postal and paper costs, along with the loss of some grants from Unitarian organizations, have put the paper in a difficult financial position. The board is working hard to fill the gaps, but it is not given that the paper will survive. Letters have gone out to our subscribers. Please renew if you can, and if you are able, and encourage your church committee to order a few more copies to distribute amongst members, friends, or newcomers. If you have not subscribed before, give it a try. You can see details on the website www.inquirer.org.uk/pages/subscribe. We have a mission to heal a broken world, to honor truth, to find strength in diversity. Please help the Inquirer continue to be a voice of that mission. Words by Colin Burns, the editor of the Inquirer.
I referred to 2 copies of the Inquirer. They came out in November 2021, and I was attracted by the headings, the main theme, which came out in both. The organisers of the week-long Hucklow Summer School in 2021 had invited 7 speakers to make responses to the internal question, why are we here? But it had been narrowed down to consideration in a Unitarian context. So the subtitle is Discerning Our Unitarian Mission in an Upturned World. 7 invited speakers came up with a wide variety of responses. And firstly, some of the challenges of our 21st upturned world were laid out. They listed, and I'm just making a list, caring for the earth, caring for each other, particularly the marginalized, worry and anxiety, structures of power, religion, its place in the present with reference to the past, the preeminence of financial concerns over human concerns, misplaced loyalties, and there are more. The editor of the Inquirer, Colleen Burns, writes that the collective wisdom of the 7 speakers gives those of us in the pews and online much to think about, because much of what the 7 speakers prescribe in response to those 21st century challenges is both simple and difficult. So, what do these 7 speakers offer for our consideration? There is time only to list the different themes of each of the 7 participants. Then I can expand a little on the themes of 2 speakers. So this is the brief list of themes. 1, Jane Blackall, Ministry Coordinator at Kensington Unitarians, focuses on the theme of beloved community. 2, Cliff Reed is a Unitarian writer and emeritus minister at Ipswich Chapel. He advises provocatively, take no thought for the harvest. 3, Stephen Lingwood, minister at Cardiff Unitarians, is concerned with climate activism in larger and smaller ways. 4, Joe James, minister at Mill Hill Chapel, Leeds, focuses on the word religion with reference to the past and possible future developments. 5, Katie Brady McKenna, minister at Bury Unitarians, is concerned with everyday injustice and focuses on issues of gender. 6, Rory Castle-Jones, minister at Gelionan Chapel in Cardiff, refers to the passionate resistance to injustice in the past and recommends reviving that sort of passion for establishing new initiatives now. Shana Begum, a ministry student, offers the theme to be ourselves and recommends radical welcome as part of our 21st century mission. So that is the brief list of themes. Now, a little more from the first 2 speakers. Isn't it irresponsible, I ask myself, for the recommendation made by Cliff Reed to take no thought for the harvest? It's like burying one's head in the sand, I thought, or like Aesop's grasshopper, who doesn't prepare for the winter months and has to beg food from the industrious ant. But not quite. Cliff Reed makes 2 valuable observations. Firstly, what is the point of worry and obsessive anxiety about the future? How does worry help us, mentally, physically, or spiritually? But secondly, there is an alternative. when we choose to live without worry, more positively, we can concentrate on the sowing, not the harvest, and we can do that as well as possible now. We can't control or really predict the future. We are living now, and there are some things to be done. For example, Cliff Reed calls us to be good stewards of the earth, to live lovingly and creatively, to treasure the wonders of this incredible planet, to do justice and walk humbly. And we are called to do things now. Hope, he says, if not excessive or unrealistic, is part of our spiritual resource. The future is not built by us worrying about it. It's also the creation of others living in their own time. It is living well and wisely now that is our business. So, take no thought for the harvest. Jane Blackall's concern may be seen as part of that process of sowing, of living well now. She begins with the words, "It doesn't have to be like this." She refers to a writer, Nadia Bolz-Weber, a Lutheran minister, who feels that perhaps we are wired to operate more humanly in smaller, village-sized groups. Yet, we live in this huge city. And so she believes that smaller community groups can be part of a solution to more fully expressing our humanity. She refers to heart and soul groups and engagement groups as examples of what she terms beloved community. At their best, says Jane, these groups are carefully structured to be counter-cultural communities of resistance. That's a quote from Rebecca Parker. What would this mean for us in practice, Jane asks. Key to our 21st mission is the sacred practice of intentionally creating safer, softer, kinder spaces where we start trusting each other with the deeper truths in our lives. Every voice can be heard, privilege can be resisted, and invisible struggles get seen. There may be group covenants which shape how we relate and make space for each other. Jane says that in these beloved community groups, we can be called back to our highest intentions, and they can support us in helping to realize our 21st century Unitarian mission. There was much to think about in these two editions of the Inquirer.
My Inquirer articles, photocopies of 3 articles in the Inquirer by Winnie Gordon. Winnie Gordon is the minister at Unitarian New Meeting in Birmingham. Now, in March 2020, long before this service was obviously thought of, there was an article in the Inquirer by Winnie. I found it so interesting that I photocopied it, made some notes, and even spoke to her about it on Zoom. Winnie was the first person I Zoomed with. How romantic. Now, March 2020, the article is called "My Race and Society Shape My Belonging." Winnie is, she writes, the progeny of Jamaican immigrants who were also British subjects on arrival to this country. And she was drawn to Unitarianism because of its liberalism, and she wrote that she's come to understand that the liberalism I was drawn to, she writes, was white and male. She says, I've experienced racism without identifying the perpetuator as racist. She makes reference to Frantz Fanon, a colonial theorist and psychiatrist, and he wrote, the only means of being seen as equal is to be perceived as white, or more accurately, to wear the mask of whiteness. When he stresses this point, wearing the mask of whiteness. In other words, as Frantz Fanon wrote, to adopt the ruling powers, civilities, values and culture to fit in. And she makes reference in this article, she says, I recognize the inherent racism in institutions that carry the history of colonial power and privilege. Now, she followed this article up in the next issue of the Inquirer. This was April 2020. She entitled Faith in Black and White, and she writes, sometimes I feel alone and lonely within our inclusive faith. What has shifted the most for me, she writes, on my journey of embracing God in personal experiences is the understanding that factors of race do not define me. They enlighten me, embolden me, emancipate me. She finishes with the sentence, may my sharing of my experience free you too. Over 2 years later, in June this year, Winnie wrote, are Unitarians really inclusive? And she revealed then what she didn't reveal the first time round with the 2020 articles, that in 2018 to 2021 she undertook a part-time research master's degree and centered her dissertation on how inclusive Unitarians in the UK were to what she generally calls, using the general term, people of colour. Incidentally, I found this particularly interesting. She estimates that our Unitarian population in this country of people of colour is about 1% of our UK domination. She says small, but noticeable and growing. And I discovered something. I discovered a term reading this June 2022 article that I'd never come across before. You see, I find the Inquirer so interesting. Terrific, always interesting stuff to read. And she uses a term in this article, I hadn't heard it, maybe some of you have, microaggressions. One word, M-I-C-R-O, aggressions. Now, this term was coined by a psychiatrist, Dr. Chester M. Pierce, in the 1970s to describe subtle insults and put-downs that African Americans experience regularly. He added that microaggressions are an insidious form of racism, sending denigrating messages to people of colour. Winnie's research statistics include very specific examples of what are termed microaggressions. For example, Winnie found in her research 92% of Unitarians of colour reported being asked, "Where are you from?" 50% reported being asked the follow-up question, "No, where are you really from?" 8% got the third follow-up question, "Where's your family or ethnic origin from?" And 50% of participants in her study recall being asked if it was their first time at the church, although they'd attended several times. Let me tell you all now that I think these kind of questions are much more general anyway, and we all do it to all different people. But it's interesting what the people of colour she spoke to reported. Now, she does add, Winnie adds, humans, of course, have a normal curiosity to find out information about others, that's what I've just said. But when the question is asked multiple times in multiple ways, it has a knock-on effect of sending out a message of exclusion. Winnie concludes, Unitarianism needs to do better if we truly want to live up to the standard of inclusivity. It's time we dismantle a cultural system of lifetimes and examine the white supremacy culture Unitarianism has upheld. She finishes, our identities are different, and as a spiritual community that believes in inclusivity, our job is to affirm those differences in a way that celebrates and uplifts the dignity and worth of every human being. Now, the Inquirer. The Inquirer editor, who's already been referred to, Colleen Burns, I think she's a terrific editor, uses this expression a lot, the conversation continues. Whatever's in the Inquirer or whatever's being said within Unitarianism, opposing things will be said, questions will be asked about it. In particular, as a result of Winnie's article, Are Unitarians Really Inclusive? A couple of months later, in fact, mid-September this year, there is a letter in the Inquirer from an Oxford Unitarian called Bert Clough, where he questions the fact that in Winnie's most recent article, Are Unitarians Really Inclusive?, there is an absence of her setting out her methodology. Colleen Burns, the editor, makes it really clear in this recent edition that she deliberately did not put into the Inquirer the methodology Winnie used. She said this is the convention in journalism as opposed to academic journals. She says, Colleen Burns, the editor, I made the decision to remove those details of Winnie's research from the original article. So Bert Clough is asking about this, what is the methodology? Bert Clough adds in his letter, the editorial published in the same issue rightly states that the findings which imply that Unitarian churches uphold a white supremacy culture are discomforting, but they're only discomforting if they are verifiable. Because of his letter, immediately Colleen Burns obviously showed it to Winnie Gordon, the writer of the articles, and there is a response from Winnie immediately below Bert Clough's letter. My research used a phenomenological approach with multiple methods, and she goes into detail. This is so much the Inquirer. Good articles, questions asked about them, opposing views, a letter saying where is the methodology, it should be there, and Winnie Gordon, the writer of the articles, replying to it. All very interesting, and it's the kind of stuff that I find makes the Inquirer so good to read. And talking about, as I have been this term, microaggressions, in the current issue of the Inquirer, we don't have copies here yet, it's the 15th of October issue, there is an article by our own Kate Dean on microaggressions. So, I hope I've given you a flavour of what the Inquirer's like, how interesting, and how everything in it is questioned, because, as Colleen Burns says, the conversation continues.
I'm aware of the time, and given the time, I have decided not to read the piece which I was going to share, which is entitled A Man of Peace, and was all about Thich Nhat Hanh. Some of you might know a lot about him, and because of the time, I've decided just to do the meditation. So I am now inviting you to a loving kindness meditation. I invite you into the time of reflection and meditation. I invite you to center yourself. Rest in a position to be aware and balanced. Now concentrate on the breath. Simply watch it come and go, allowing your breathing to become regular and a little deeper, without forcing anything. Once the breath is settled, focus your attention on the chest, especially on the heart center, so that the heart becomes open and peaceful. Breathing in, I calm my body. Breathing out, I relax. Dwelling in the present moment, I know it is a wonderful moment. Begin the loving kindness meditation by wishing yourself well. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be healthy. May I be safe. May I be at peace. Repeat these sentences slowly over and over again. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be healthy. May I be at peace. If your mind wanders, simply bring it back to these phrases. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be healthy. May I be safe. May I be at peace. Next, bring a person very dear to you, a family friend or a member. Send loving kindness to their way of by repeating the phrase. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be healthy. May you be safe. May you be at peace. Repeat the phrase with full intention. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be healthy. May you be safe. May you be at peace. And now extend loving kindness to everyone, those you know and those you don't know. Send the following words their way. May all be filled with loving kindness. May all be healthy. May all be safe. May all be at peace. As you repeat the phrases over and over, put your heart and mind behind each word. Repeat the phrases. May all be filled with loving kindness. May all be healthy. May all be safe. May all be at peace. Let us now join in singing our hymn number 208, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. John will play the whole hymn through and then we'll join in to sing. When Our Heart is in a Holy Place.
It's my job to do the closing words and to remind you that the collection will be taken during the postlude music. The closing words are by Sarah Moores Campbell. We receive fragments of holiness, glimpses of eternity, brief moments of insight. Let us gather them up for the precious gifts that they are, and renewed by their grace, move boldly into the unknown.
Thank you so much to John, our Director of Music, for the beautiful music. And a special thank you to our wonderful elders for bringing such a varied selection of ideas from the Inquirer. As I mentioned, we have a whole selection of previous editions and the latest edition here, which we'll leave on the table for you to enjoy during tea and conversation. There will also be the card reader, if you'd like to make your donation that way, on a table near the piano. Let's all enjoy tea and conversation now. Thank you, everyone.